would have had to recuse themselves before Grassley's committee even voted them out to go to the floor for a vote. So I think the recusal is an issue, yes, an issue that was dealt with and had to be dealt with. And whether you picked Rudy or Christie, and by the way, this thing about Sessions was not the first pick. Rudy was always the first pick. Jeff Sessions and Rudy, all of them wanted Secretary of State, okay? So even Rudy knew at the time there was going to be this issue of recusal. So I think the president's wrong. I think if you look at what Jeff Sessions has done on immigration, on migration, and all the key issues at the Justice Department, I think Sessions has personally done an excellent job.
Joining me now, CNN political analyst Joshua Green. And why is he here? Because we like him, but also because he wrote this book, Devil's Bargain, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, and the Nationalist Uprising. So, I mean, it's not the first time, especially after Michael Wolff's book, that we've heard Steve Bannon criticize the president. But what did you make of this on Sessions?
Well, it's really not a surprise on Sessions. One of the passages in my book is that long before Donald Trump came along, Steve Bannon tried to convince Jeff Sessions to run for president. And the reason he wanted to do that was to elevate the issues of trade and immigration restrictions. He thought that if Sessions ran, that those issues would take over the debate in the Republican Party. Sessions didn't end up running, but Donald Trump did. And by elevating Sessions to Attorney General, Bannon essentially got what he wanted. If you look at where the focus of news coverage is, if you look at where the energy in the Trump administration is, it's in cracking down on immigration and starting trade wars. And so Bannon wants to keep Sessions in place along with a lot of other conservatives.
You wonder what Bannon would think this morning when he sees the tariffs on our allies higher, more than the tariffs on China, because he's been such a vocal voice on China, China, China. Let me get you on some other things that he said to Fareed Zakaria. He talked about the Mueller probe and support of the investigation. Let's play it.
I've been a big proponent of Mueller. I was the guy that said, don't fire Comey. This thing's petering out. I said, it's the C block on Anderson Cooper. Nobody's interested anymore. It'll be done in 90 days, and we'll be done with it. Okay, but
I have to protest that. Lots of people watch the C block on Anderson Cooper.
No, but I'm saying the energy by the time you get to the C block, when Anderson's got something, it's in the A block. If you fire him, you're going to a special prosecutor. I've been a big proponent of Mueller. I've gone to be part of that as a witness of fact. I have always said, he's a combat Marine, great individual. That ought to play out as it's going to play out. Now, where I have a problem, and a huge problem, I was the guy that said publicly that COBB should be fired. Okay, he gave the president, I thought, terrible advice, and I actually think lied to the president consistently about what the nature of this investigation was and the timing of it and giving overall documents. Remember, unlike all the precedents set with every other president, we willingly went and gave over 1 million pages of documents and allowed the White House counsel, the chief of staff, the chief strategist, the head of communications to expedite this, which I thought was not wise.
What's your read on that?
Well, Bannon from the outset was not among the crowd that said, let's try and fire Mueller. He said the same thing about Comey, that you can't fire the FBI, and I think events have proved that he's right about that.
Worst political decision ever, I think he said about Comey. Remember
exactly.
that?
He did. That's right.
Yeah.
But more recently, over the last couple of weeks, I think he has come out and said that the investigation has gone on too long. He's been among a group of outside Trump supporters who've been trying to put pressure on Rod Rosenstein or pressure Trump to fire Rod Rosenstein. So it surprises me to hear Bannon saying that the Mueller investigation is valid because he's not singing from the same hymnal as most other Republicans are these days, who are trying to create space for Trump to fire Mueller by saying that the investigation is invalid or that it's gone on too long or that Mueller is some kind of a crypto Democrat or all the other silly Republican attacks.
Well, but not there are Republicans that have even put forward legislation to protect the special counsel, but I hear you. Also, finally, just want to get you on this because he has a very clear, very strong opinion when it comes to the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. Here it is.
I think the question with Rosenstein, particularly when you got the Southern District of Manhattan involved in this whole Cohen thing, it looks like the Southern District of Manhattan is involved in the Trump organization. Now he refuses to give some sort of briefing to the Gang of Eight. They refuse to give these documents to Nunes. I think now that Rosenstein ought to be given a direct order. Very simple. You turn every document associated with this spy over in Cambridge and whatever foreign institution was involved, whether it's MI5, MI6, or anybody else, You give whatever the FBI did, you give whatever the CIA did. You see Clapper and these guys on TV every night, and Brennan, they're just bitter old men. You turn over every document, and if he doesn't turn it over, you give him 24 hours. If he doesn't turn it over, I would fire him, and that's not obstruction of justice. That's giving a law enforcement officer a direct order to turn over documents to Capitol Hill. And if he doesn't do it, I would fire him.
That, to me, Josh, was the most striking part of the whole interview, and you can just imagine the president listening to that, mulling that over in his head.
Well, exactly. The idea that Trump would force Rosenstein to turn over all the documents in an active investigation into his own campaign's potential collusion with Russia is just unheard of. And you could tell, you know, the subtext of what Bannon was saying there was, if he doesn't do it, which he presumably wouldn't because it would be improper, that then becomes the forcing mechanism for Trump to justify firing Rosenstein, which is what a lot of Trump supporters, Trump Republicans, want the president to do. And they want to create a pathway for that to happen, one that Bannon laid out very neatly in that interview with Fareed Zakaria.
Quickly, 30 seconds before we go, what's up with Steve Bannon right now? What's he doing? When that interview was in Rome, so clearly having some good pasta. But other than that, what is Steve Bannon up to these days?
Well, he spent the last couple of weeks in Europe meeting with right-wing nationalist political leaders, Viktor Orban in Hungary, some of the populist parties that have just taken over Italy, sowing the same kind of right-wing nationalism over there that he did over here. So Steve Bannon is up to his old tricks.